Hi there, Gordon. Let's take a look at this set of essays you've sent. Spending money on tickets. Here's what you wrote. With the ever-increasing popularity of the sporting or cultural events, the ticket scalping is a prevalent phenomenon in the city, especially when great singers hold concerts or large sporting events take place. While others claim that paying a higher price for the tickets is a natural derivative of business in a free market economy, I believe it is a negative development to society due to a ban to the equal access of the culture and the effect on one's finance. Okay, a lot of this is good. You've got a lot of nice vocabulary in this paragraph, but there are some things that I want to fix a little bit. First of all, I think you've misunderstood the meaning of ticket scalping. All right, that's the first problem. And so your use of this very specific expression really changes the entire meaning of this paragraph, potentially your essay. So I want you to be careful about it. All right, I don't think this was the appropriate expression to use here. And then there were some grammatical things happening, especially a lot of things with articles. So what I'd like to do is read it again and this time correct some of that grammar. So, with the ever-increasing popularity of sporting or cultural events, ticket scalping is a prevalent phenomenon in the city, especially when great singers hold concerts or large sporting events take place. All right, again, I don't believe this is the right word here. While some claim that paying a higher price for the tickets is a natural derivative of business in a free market economy, I believe it is a negative development in society due to the okay, how about this? Due to, it's not a ban, that's the wrong word. Due to less access to culture and the effect this has, and the effect it has on one's finance, something like that, but I can't really say that I'm super thrilled with that either. But at least it's a little better, okay? Let's take a look at your next paragraph and see what you did there. Culturally speaking, having an unreasonably high price for such activities deprives, you want an S here, the right of other people to enjoy shows, including students. Educational values are usually embedded in these events, but the heavy price poses an obstacle for students to attend a lesson of experiential learning. No, I don't really agree with it. A lesson of experiential learning, you can't really call a sporting event. I don't really feel like that's totally appropriate. Or, even like a concert. I understand what you're trying to say, but I would stay away from this expression here. For example, a formal musical orchestra show in the Grand Hall in town costs more than $500. The performance is a precious chance for students to explore the world of classical music, yet the prohibitively high price denies the access of the unaffordable groups to the culture. I don't understand this. I don't understand this expression. The unaffordable groups? What is the unaffordable group? That's not clear. Hence, it fails in serving the educational purpose and makes the performance less accessible to the general public. Okay, as far as the less accessible, I understand that classical music and concerts of this nature could be considered educational. I agree, but again, I don't really believe that you can describe it as being experiential learning. Anyway, let's move on. For some people who are, no, this is the wrong word. It doesn't create a coherent meaning here. Look what you wrote. You wrote, for some people who are overindulgent in live performances are probably not affected by the soaring ticket price. I don't really know what you're trying to say here. I have absolutely no idea. Do you mean for some people who are very wealthy? I'm really just not sure. I really don't understand the sentence at all, I'm afraid. There's too many wrong words, wrong expressions that just create incoherence. The primary motive for them is to update their socializing sites and show off to their friends. A recent research for Harvard education study reveals that some Some young people even wrongly recognize watching these shows makes them appear cool and elevate their status among their friends. Grammar and vocabulary. First of all, we don't say a recent research, it's just recent research. So, recent research for Harvard Education Study reveals that some people wrongly believe that attending these live shows, this is really just too informal. How about increases their status? Okay. Oh, here you go. Yeah, you said elevates their status. So get rid of this. All right. Appear cool. It's just way too informal. The unthoughtful decisions lead them to a debt. You're spelling debt wrong. It's with a B. Trap due to a misprediction to their budget. Wrong vocabulary, wrong syntax. Why is it unthoughtful? You're not explaining this to us. Are you telling us that they don't have the money and they go into debt? You're making these assumptions and these leaps and we're not able to follow you, okay? Misprediction of their budget. So there's just mistakes really throughout the sentence. Consequently, the misbehavior may build these teens an unhealthy financing habit in a long run, which seriously affects their values and ethics in everyday life. Okay, again, there are problems with this sentence as well. You're trying to say something a little different, and what's coming across is really difficult. It creates a strain because you have to kind of search for the meaning. It's not clear through your writing. What you're trying to say is that the decision to pay for high ticket prices to the events creates a bad habit for young people who, in the long run, may develop wrong morals, okay, a culture of overspending, and perhaps even put them in debt. I think this is what you're trying to say. Unfortunately, what's coming across is really something that's difficult to follow. Okay, so having discussed the negative cultural and personal impact of the issue, it is firmly believed by whom that spending too much on entertaining events is an unwise move. Not only should people not waste their money on these events, but also the organizers, should set the ticket price reasonably to ensure a larger coverage of the audience for educational purposes. All right, that part's fine. All right, so what I want to talk a little bit about is, obviously I already told you that the grammar throughout the essay is problematic, it's difficult to follow, and that's probably one of the weakest points in this essay. But there's something else I want to point your attention to. The question is not whether tickets are expensive or not. The question is whether it is a positive or negative development to spend the money, a lot of money on these tickets. Now, in your second body paragraph, you talked about that. You said that, people can go into debt, they, they develop unwise habits and so forth and so forth. But here, you weren't talking about that. You were basically saying that the price of these tickets makes it prohibitive for people. But that's not what the question asked you. The question asked you, is it good or bad to spend this money on tickets? And you answered something totally different here. And so it feels rather off topic. You kind of went off on a tangent. It's not what they asked you to talk about, whether it's fair or unfair that this happens. That's not the point. The point is people are spending money. Is that good or is that bad? Okay, so you needed to focus on something different than what you focused on here. That's the other thing I want to talk about. Like I said, a lot of the grammar was problematic. A lot of your sentences were unclear and they were difficult to follow. But I want to look at your task 1, and so let's see what you did there. Okay, so here's what you wrote here. It's the rainfall in England, Scotland, and Wales. Okay, the line graph illustrates the distribution of rainfall in 3 countries of the United Kingdom, namely England, Scotland, and Wales, by month in 2018. Generally, the highest amount of precipitation was recorded during summer, and the least amount was recorded in spring. Okay, so I just want to check the accuracy of your statements here. You said the highest precipitation was recorded during summer and the least was in spring. Let's see if that's correct. I just gonna have to bring this up a little bigger. Hold on. Okay, forget about that. Let's try it a little differently like this. Okay, so what you're saying is that the most was in summer Yeah, I could see why you might say that. I mean, we've got that high here, and you said the least was in spring. Okay, I could see why you might be tempted to say that too, because two of the countries had some of their lowest figures in spring as well. But it really wasn't spring on the whole, but it was just like 1 month. So I see your point, and maybe if you sat there and really did a lot of math, you could potentially confirm this. But I'm going to suggest to you that maybe you could have gone with a clearer, maybe more recognizable overview. And there were a lot of things you could have said here for an overview. You could have said that for all 3 areas, precipitation varied considerably, but on the whole, England had the highest average rainfall. So that's a pretty standard, pretty simple thing that you can conclude here, okay? Because England didn't have any of those lows that Scotland and Wales had, okay? So I'm not saying that what you wrote is wrong exactly. I'm just saying that it might not have been the thing that like really sticks out the most here in this graph. Okay, so let's move on. According to the information presented, there were no more than 100 ml of rainfall measured in both England, Scotland, and Wales in July, where the figures were approximately, okay, there were more than 100 ml. Okay, that's why it makes sense now. Okay. Where the figures were approximately 125 ml, 130, and 120 ml accordingly. The word you want is not accordingly, it's really respectively. Conversely, the lowest level was in May, where the measurements of rain recorded in England, Scotland, and Wales were not both. It's 3 things, so I don't know why you're using the word both here. Okay, hence the rainy season for UK in 2018 was in summer. In particular, England experienced surprisingly much rain. No, that's not correct. More rain, surprisingly more rain compared with, more rain compared with Scotland and Wales. Throughout the year, the level of rainfall in England was over 75 ml. However, there were some months in Scotland and Wales that had less rain. For example, Scotland had minimal rain in February with only 25 ml of rainfall. The lowest measurement of rain recorded in Wales was in April with also only 25 ml of rainfall. Okay, so you're over the word limit, so that's good. You're over the word minimum. There wasn't any problem with your grammar, but I have to really disagree with the information that you chose to focus on. It picks a couple of those key points. So for example, you really highlighted that information about July. You really highlighted that information about May. Although from what I remember, it wasn't May that was really low, it was April. So take a look here. See, it's April that's really low, not May. So you've got some inaccuracy there. And let's see. And then you made this conclusion that the rainy season was in summer. Then here, all right, now here's what's happening. Basically, you have 36 pieces of information here. 36. So let's really take a look at how many you've actually covered here. So you've clearly covered 6 pieces of information here. And then here you said, you basically just told us where England was. It was over that point. And then you told us 1 point for Scotland and then 1 point for Wales. And so basically what I'm trying to tell you is that I really felt like you just didn't cover this enough. I think that there was a lot more information and that it was a lot of words, it was a lot of language, but there was very little in terms of information. So let me tell you, for me, what I think some of the important key pieces here are. Now, obviously, like I said before, there's 36 pieces of information. You are not going to talk about all of them. But there are some key points that I think you should include in this graph. First of all, when you look at a chronological graph like this, where it covers the course of a year, I think you have to look at it like a story, okay? So when you are listening to a story, or when you're telling a story, what are the key points that you want to include? You want to talk about the beginning. Okay, so you want to set up the situation by telling the beginning. You most certainly want to mention the end, how the story ends, and then you want to mention some of those main things in the middle of the story that really make a difference. Okay, so when you do a chronological graph like this, it's the same kind of idea. So what do I mean? I mean, you really should have mentioned these 3 beginning points, okay? So that's 3 points you should mention. And of course the 3 end points, so that's 6 points you should mention. And then looking at each of the countries, there are a couple of points that I think really should be included. So for England, no, not for England, sorry, for Scotland, apart from the beginning and the end, I think the points you should have mentioned were 1, 2, and 3, okay? I mean, maybe you could have argued maybe one more point, but really it's this 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5. Those are the really important things. So those, the beginning, the end, those 2 high points, and then that 1 low point, okay? Right here in February. For England, I think you should have mentioned, of course, again, 1, 2, and then 3, 4, because you have 3 peaks here in England, and then 5. Okay? And then for Wales, you can probably guess what I'm going to say. You should mention 1, 2, 3, and then 4, because that's really interesting, and then 5. So in total, you're going to mention 15 pieces of information here. It is doable, trust me. It's easier to do than you think. So that's something I want you to think about. I mean, those are really the key points in this graph here. So you need to find a way where you can organize your answers so that you can cover all of those. But those are the things that I think are worth mentioning here. All right, so I know we've got another set of essays from you, so I'm looking forward to them. See if you can kind of apply some of these things that we're talking about today. And I'll be waiting for your next set. All right, so good luck with it.